You know how they say any camera you buy in the last 5 years will be good enough? Turns out they meant exactly 5 years. Hi everyone, so you saw this camera on my last video. This is the Fujifilm X-E1. It was released in third quarter of 2012. It is the second camera that was ever released by Fujifilm under the X lineup, and it uses the first sensor. It uses the first X trans sensor by Fujifilm. So came out in 2012, so that would put this camera at 8 years old, so past the whole 5 years recommend buying thing. But let me get into why I bought this camera. So this is the third camera I've ever purchased. Well, no, fourth camera. Let me give the DxO1 some respect. So this is the fourth camera I've ever purchased, and I bought this camera because I was in the market for a nice portable camera. Also a camera that I can use as a backup camera to my X-H1. And let me actually just show you a quick size comparison between this X-E1 and my Fujifilm X-H1. And yep, you can see it's quite a size difference there. This Fujifilm X-E1 fit much nicer in the bag and gives me a lot of space. You know, whatever sling bag I choose to put it in, whether it's the City Sling bag that you saw in the last video or my Chrome Messenger bag. And because I can change the lens with my other Fuji lenses, this can serve as a backup camera also. As you can see, I have the Per Gear 25mm. That's fully manual. It's like it's a nice, good quality built full manual lens. I'll talk more about this in another video. So I got this camera for $150 off Reddit. As you can see, it's a good, great condition, but it's really the price that attracted me to getting this camera, because I was looking at other cameras like the Ricoh GR2, the Fujifilm X100F, the Fujifilm X70 or the X20 for $150. I got this instead. By the way, this is it with the thumb grip. Gives more of a profile so you can hold your camera like this. I don't really use it as much. I usually just rock it without the grip. But let me give you a quick tour of the camera. So we have the focus modes here. We have the button that you push to change your lenses. We have the one command dial here, and you know what I found out with this camera? Camera does not take, like, you don't use the command dial so much for anything really, except maybe just to check your focus, or if you have to control your aperture, like if you don't have a lens that doesn't have an aperture ring, you can also use your command dial. The command dial doesn't really, like here, it doesn't, you can use this to scroll through your menu, so bear that in mind. That's something, it's like, it's really old and retro like that. So we have an off and on switch. This off and on switch is it's very light. It's like sometimes like I just look at it and I find that it's on. So it's very light. Like you have to watch it, make sure you don't turn it on or off when you intended it to. And then we have a programmable function button. This function button is currently programmed for it to control my ISO. By the way, that's another thing. This and this, the function and this down button, are the only two buttons that you can customize for whatever you want to customize. All the rest are not customizable. Yeah, it's another thing I had to get used to. Other things I had to get used to with this Fujifilm X-E1, there is no, the film simulations. It doesn't have my favorite film simulations, which have the Provia, Velvia, Astia, ProNeg High, ProNeg Standard, and then the black monochrome. That's it. It doesn't have the film simulations that I like. That's classic chrome and acros. And it doesn't even have a setting to add grain inside the camera, which really sucks. Hold on, this camera is starting to act up now. Hold on. I've also noticed sometimes it locks up. Oh, one other thing to note is that the SD card is right here with the battery, and it still uses the same batteries which I have with my X-H1, so that's a positive. I'll probably have this in the wrong way. And then you have to press the latch down and voila. And then you have a tripod screw very close to the battery. You have your ports here. You have an auto exposure and auto lock button. Something to note is when you're taking photos, this will act as your photometry button. Another thing to note is your flash button. It won't work if you are in silent mode, and you can be in silent mode just by holding the display button. Silent mode. Even though it says silent mode, guys, this camera does not actually have an electronic shutter. It only has a mechanical shutter. So that's another thing that, was a shock to me, because I'm 90% of the time I'm shooting electronic shutter. So another thing I've realized using this camera for 2 weeks is that this camera, it doesn't process photos as well as the as my Fujifilm X-E1. Let me show you here. Like, you only have two options, like plus, up to like, -2 and up to +2. And that's it. The same thing with the exposure compensation. Something you should know, this exposure compensation dial, this specific one, only works if your camera is in aperture priority, shutter priority, or in program mode. It won't work if you're in manual. If you are in manual, you'll have to use these two buttons, which serves, in my experience, they seem to work as an exposure compensation. Knowing what I know now about this camera, would I have gotten it again? And the answer to that would be no. To be honest, I would have spent $100 more and get the Fujifilm X-E2S or the X-E2, and that's what I would recommend other buyers. Don't spend $150 on the X-E1. Pay $100 more. Get the Fujifilm X-E2 or the X-E2S for $250. That camera will give you more of the things Fujifilm is known for, like the classic chrome film simulation and film grain settings in the camera, and also an electronic shutter. I have this camera now. I'm gonna keep going as long as I can with it until maybe, I don't know, the mechanical shutter breaks. But thanks for watching. You guys have a good day, and stay tuned for my next video. Wait, I almost forgot. I'm starting a new series on this channel called Budding Photographer, where I document my learning experiences using my cameras and learning more about photography. So stay tuned for more videos in that series. All right, guys. Bye.